The good news is that I'm between you and final comments. So I think we'll try and wrap this up from that point. Again, I think I'd like to thank, I'd like to join the bandwagon of thanking, of all of us thanking SIBCA for organizing this. It's been a great experience. Very interesting to get different types of technologies together, and I think that's not something that's happened in the last couple of years quite often. So it's truly been a welcome gathering and a welcome change for all of us. My name is Vidya Venugopal. I lead the business development team for the Motorola Video Security and Access Control Division. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is definitely from the angle of security and surveillance. But I want to start with this quote, and I think it's an interesting one because there were a lot of years when we talked about data being the new oil, and I think we associate oil with wealth and power and all of that. But there was an information design journalist who tweaked that a little bit, or kind of allowed people to go and delve into, is it really oil or is it soil, right? And why does he say that? One of the things that when you think of the analogy is that soil is fertile, right? And unlike some of the resources in the world, it's not a finite resource. Very similarly, data is growing, it's expanding. We have the ability now to enhance that data. We have the ability now to reuse that data. And I think that is an interesting aspect of being very similar to soil. You as end users or people that work in this business, you own that data. So I'd like to think of you as farmers, right? So as farmers, you own that data. Now the interesting aspect for farmers is they don't set out and say, I'm going to be a farmer because I have fertile soil, right? They set out saying, I want to feed the world. And I think that is sort of the angle that I'd like to bring in terms of perspective, that you can have data, you can have all that data, but if you don't have a goal right in the beginning of what you want to do with it, we're all going to be lost. And the second, going back to my analogy of soil, is also roots, right? If your roots are not firm and you don't build everything firmly for this data for your businesses to grow, it's not really going to help any of it. So yes, you could have great infrastructure with brands like Excel and all of our digital transformation technologies that we've talked about with Johnson and Honeywell. But at the end of the day, you have to also ensure that all this data that's mined, how do you utilize it and how do you make that more effective? And that's really what we come in terms of Motorola from the angle of video security. So Motorola is a global leader in enterprise security. We all are very familiar with the handheld mobile devices. A segment that is of huge growth at the moment is the video security and access control, which is the segment that I'm part of. And our objective is really to enable that goal and the roots that you want to build in order to make your businesses successful. So we're looking at business critical technology ecosystem that will help make communities safer. Now, I have 20 minutes and I have to give you a portfolio that is extremely wide and huge. So I've categorized it really looking at it from camera technology to in a little bit with a very popular topic called AI. So I'm just going to, at a very high level, talk about what are the different types of analytics that are available and how do you make the right decision to get to that goal that we started talking about at the beginning, right? The biggest question that I get asked when I go in for an end user meeting is, which is better, right? Is the camera analytics on, or the technology on a camera better, or is the technology on the server-based analytics better? And this is a question that I get asked almost every time. There is no right answer. There's no better. There's no question of which one's greater technology. It is really use case dependent, right? We would be looking at different aspects. What's the current infrastructure available? What's the, how much of an operational budget do you have? So we look at it from various different aspects. Very high level, this is how I would divide it, right? If I had to decide edge analytics, which is based on the cameras, versus server technology, You do get lower latency because there's more dependency on connectivities when it comes to the camera analytics. You do have reduced operational costs because the technology is evaluated on the edge, or it can be on cloud, so you have, you have lesser expenses for servers and storage. However, the important aspect to remember is that the camera is not just doing AI, it's also doing a lot of other aspects of the surveillance part. It's streaming a lot of video, it's bringing the video out to the central space. So if you require multiple or advanced sort of analytics in terms of multiple numbers, I would recommend you then to look at a server-based technology. But if you're looking at doing analytics that are used, that can be used much quicker and faster, then I would recommend looking at edge analytics from that point. Again, when you come to edge analytics, it's categorized into two sections. One that's called the rules-based, very old school in terms of the way that it operates. You set a rule, you say, you draw a line, and you say, if anybody crosses that line, I want an alarm. Or you draw a box, and you say, if this is the box, this is what it needs to do, and this is the alarm. We've gone a long way ahead from that point. Yes, it's not bad to have rules-based analytics. You can specify. However, the specificity or the details that you can provide in rules-based analytics is very limited. You can define it by size or by proportion, and that's about it. Configuration becomes a lot more complicated because you need to set multiple different rules for the system to actually understand how it operates. Processing. It does not require as much processing because it's just following basic guideline or rules. The last one, obviously, is learning. Rules-based analytics do not do any sort of learning. So once you get, once you're presented with any manufacturer or anybody who tells you, I have AI-based analytics, the first question to ask is, what type of analytics is it? Is it edge-based or, is it edge-based or is it server-based? And the second question is it rule-based or is it deep learning? Now, what is deep learning? And this is where the benefits of deep learning come. Accuracy, it's extremely accurate because it reduces the number of false positives that can, because it's dependent on just not the rules that you've set. It's dependent on the lighting, it's dependent on the shadows, what's the conditions around. So it takes into account the entire image that it picks up. You can define any sort of object, so you don't have to restrict it to size and proportion. You can define it by different aspects. So it can be trained for people, vehicles, it can segregate by itself. It's extremely easy to deploy. And for those of you who want more information and you reach out, when we show you the demo, you'll be surprised. It's as simple as dropping an arrow and showing the system that it's going from left to right. And that's all it needs, whether it's people, whether it's person, and the system will automatically start learning and understanding what is the way that a person's expected or a car is expected to flow in. It does require higher processing power. However, a lot of the technologies available today will enable you to have that specialized processors for this deep learning. And the amount of learning is really where the game changes, because the analytics engine is trained to take thousands of examples over. It starts from the word go, right? As soon as you put the camera on and you enable a deep learning, the camera starts learning right from then, and it's learning every second of every minute of every day. And that enables it to get a lot more different changing use cases or case scenarios. Right, very, very high level, if you had to look at this diagram and understand what is deep learning about, this sort of gives you the perspective. So it tells you this is the training. So during the training phase, we're trying to identify a dog, right? So the input that you give to the system is, I want to identify a dog. Now, during the training, it's gone through a whole lot of other animals, and it's kind of looked at different aspects and features. The first layer of the neurons look at what are the angles, what are the different shapes, etc. Then it goes into the higher layers where it looks at more complex structures like the face, the nose, the paws, etc. Now the top layer starts looking at much higher complex in neurons, right? So it looks to identify what are the physical differences or the structural differences between a horse, between a cat, between other animals such as that. The output, however, even takes into account of the flapping of the ears, the behavior, the wagging of the tail. So if you look at a wolf and a dog, there's a very small difference in terms of how you identify it. And that is the beauty of deep learning, right? It allows you to natively look at the entire image and not just consider boxes or certain parameters that are set. From a Pelco perspective, which is, this is how we include all this technology. So all our cameras have certain native built-in analytics that come on all our models. And then we also include the deep learning. So there's no additional cost that you pay for it. It just comes as part of the package that we put together. Now, I did all this talking about, cameras and having AI built in and, technology built in. But I'm sure there's a lot of you as end users here who have infrastructure that already have cameras, right? I mean, we are in a hugely regulated environment, and based on the police requirements, we do have cameras that have been put in the past. Now, what do you do with cameras that already have that technology built in? And this is where we turn things a little bit interesting. We've recently released a product line that's called Calypsa. It is a cloud-based application, so it does not take any video stream directly into it. It's only taking metadata information, and it converts any standard megapixel camera into an AI-enabled camera. So that is a huge cost saving because you don't need to pull the camera out. If it's a beautiful lobby like this, you don't need to have it shut down and then try and reach it. So Calypsa is sort of becoming a game changer from that angle. Now, other than the fact that you can upgrade your camera intelligence, the second interesting thing that Calypsa does is a big problem that a lot of people in the control room will tell you is you keep getting alarms for everything that happens, right? You've got all these alarms from integration, and then you've got alarms that are now coming in from AI. I was sitting with an end user the other day who said, I want all my cameras to have to be an AI enabled. And I was like, if you have per camera, if you take one camera and you start getting 10 alarms a day, if you are a 1,000 camera project, that's, I don't know, do the maths, that's that many number of alarms. Now, with all those alarms that are constantly coming in, the operator is not going to be able to figure out how to identify which are false, which are real, what is the significance of these alarms, right? Or what's the priority of these alarms? And this is another aspect that Calypsa really takes into account. I'm going to do a quick show of an actual live system to show you how quickly Calypsa looks at scenes and allows the operator to decide whether it's false or real. The third important aspect of this platform is also time saving. So it allows you to take reports and look at camera health reports, understand if views have changed, etc. So 3 of these things that we're going to have a very quick look at. Now, I want to tell you this is a site across us in Dubai Internet City. Motorola has an experience center there. We've got a couple of cameras on the top of the roof, and I'm going to log in live on the system. Those cameras are not AI-enabled. They're standard 2-megapixel cameras that were required as part of regulation. And now we've started monitoring a bridge and a specific area, and then looking at how many people are passed by and giving information that will actually help maybe suit business needs or security needs. Very high level of everything that it does. Object detection, if cameras are masked, you can schedule, you can share between sites. It's got a mobile app as well, reports, scene change. Like I said, to compress everything in this short duration, I'm just showing you very high level, but feel free to reach out to me and my colleague Shajal if you need any further information on this. I'm just going to switch my mode into a browser. So it is a browser-based application. And I'm logged in. Very, very simply, there's a tab that kind of gives you a home view, tells you different, you can create any sort of dashboard that you like. Now, this dashboard, mind you, is telling me in the last 24 hours how many alarms I've had. Out of these alarms, the total number of alarms that were processed were these. would you imagine these were the number of false alarms, and we are a security manufacturer, and yet that's the level of false alarms that have actually been picked up by the system. So the real-time alarms are really this blue graph. So it's very quick for you to understand from an operational point on your site how many of these are real and how many of these can be false, right? If I just go back up, I don't want it to be taking a whole lot of time, but just to give you a quick idea of how easy it is. Let's look at the last 24 hours. I'm picking up any site, and you could do this across multiple sites. If you are a large developer, you could do it across multiple locations. Pick up Dubai, we pick up whatever cameras we have at that point, and search. And like I said, this is live. I've logged in on the browser. It's now going through the data and then picking up the cameras that it is selecting. Right, so now this is my demo roof. Now, if I switch on the heat map straight away, with no analytics built in on the camera previously, the system's able to tell me what are the areas where most amount of people have been walking in and out, right? So you've now made this camera heat map enabled, right? Now let's take that off and then say area detection. I'm going to look at drawing an area, start. I wasn't very great at art, but we'll try something here. On a bridge, right, and submit. And it's going to look at various footage across that time period that we've picked up and now see and show me there's a guy there at this time. And then if I look at this whole sequence, it's going to tell me every time there was somebody standing in that position, in that space, right? Important part again, and I'm reiterating it because you have to realize that there's no data collected from the video that had this information. We're actually looking at the footage, picking up metadata, looking at movements, and now being able to tell you this information, right? You can do it in different patterns. You can do a grid view if you like, look at various different grid views. The other important one that I wanted to show you are the alarms that can come up. And this is the second one that we looked at on that slide, right? How do you distinguish whether it's a real alarm or a false alarm? So here it's actually telling me, is this alarm true or false? And it allows the operator now to decide whether it's true. Calypso will say it's false. If you think it's true, you have the option to correct it. So you can actually, it really empowers you to distinguish on multiple alarms that have come in whether it's true or false. The other thing that I think I wanted to show you was scene change detection. This is a common problem that happens when there's a security breach, is when in the last, 7 days maybe or 30 days, if there has been any detection of a scene change where somebody has tried to move the camera away, or changed a view. So you're supposed to be looking at a bridge or certain view, but somebody has actually, an operator has changed that view. This is another problem that happens every time the police comes and suddenly realizes, oh, the view was changed without realizing. So you can pull up that image and you will see that, for some reason this isn't popping up here, but you will see that the angle of view has changed, or the whole the appearance view has changed, because of which it has been detected as an alarm. So things like this that you can do that need not have been there on your site, but now you're making your camera technology smarter from that point, without the additional infrastructure need of changing the camera itself. Right, let me go back to my slide deck. I'm going to pull this down, and that should bring me back here. Right, the last bit that I'm just going to introduce to you is we saw all these technologies and all the information that comes in from that. One of the most difficult things in a command control center or in a control room is that the operator has to react when there are these alarms or when there is an event. If it's a fire alarm, he has to follow a particular procedure or guideline that's set out to him. Now, it's unfair on him when you have a fully integrated system and you've got multiple alarms and multiple events that are coming in, that he is expected at the time when a fire alarm rings to follow procedure from his memory or have to flip through pages and look at a book. And in order to empower this process, and I'm going back to my analogy of the roots, right? We're building the root to make sure that all this data or all the fertile soil that we're talking about actually helps and benefits the whole process. That's really where Compass comes in. It's a decision management platform. It's not a replacement for a video management. And that's something that I get asked a lot. The idea is that all the alarms and events come in to the decision management platform, and then it gives a very clear unified platform with specific operating procedures that needs to be followed. So it actually enables the operator to not have to think, but just follow instructions that it is told, so that it doesn't so that he doesn't make any errors during a critical time. You can automate those reports, which means that the next time MCC or SIRA comes and says, can I have a report? You don't have to have somebody sitting for hours and making those reports. These are auto-generated. Everything that happened during that incident is captured, so there's less chance for human error. You can do remote tours. You have a web client-based application. You also have a complete audit trail. This in itself is a topic, and I encourage you to come and reach out to us to learn more. This really is a game changer in the control room environment. The second thing that is important to remember when it comes to the Compass platform is that it's not limited to CCTV. It brings alarms from multiple platforms. So these could be coming from a fire alarm. It could be an alert coming from an expired card, intrusion, license plate denied. It could be a fire alarm, perimeter, a truck driver, panic alarm. So any system the alerts and events can be brought into the solution, and you can kind of get a clear operating procedure for all of these, right? This is how open it is. For those of you in the industry, you'll realize this pretty much covers all the aspects of open protocols, right? Whether it's ONWIF, RTSP, SIP, SIA, Modbus, all of these protocols that you require for us to integrate everything in. And I'm really done. This was as fast as I could get in terms of an express to kind of give you a very high overview. Again, my name is Vidya, and my colleague Shardil is here as well. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you around dinner. But if you have any questions, please reach out, and we're happy to help you at any point. Thank you.